Hey, everybody. It is Dave from Gravity Wiz. Let me adjust my monitor a bit there. We're about to kick off our 9th workshop after a long hiatus, unintentional, just the wizarding life got the better of us, but we're happy to be back. I'm pretty excited about what we have to share in this workshop. Again, the focus of this is unlocking entry blocks to just show you the power of this perk. We just released beta 1 a couple weeks ago. Beta 1 just completely reimagined the entries loop, which I'm going to go over in detail during this workshop. And I think you're going to really like it. At the end of the workshop, we're going to do some Q&A. But if you have questions throughout, please do post a comment, and we will try to answer them as we go. Just one note, this session is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. So if you need to dip out for any reason, don't worry. You can always catch the replay later. Okay, so let's start digging in. So with entry blocks, one of the things that we've seen with this is that it can do a lot. You know, we actually have this issue with a lot of our perks. It can do a lot of things, and it's not always clear everything that is possible. So I wanted to kind of come at this from a somewhat comprehensive. Obviously, we can't cover every single thing that it can do, but I want to cover the most frequently asked questions that we get as I just walk through each of these features. So let's start with the basics: display, edit, and delete. With display and edit, delete, these are kind of like the core things that you're going to want to do here with entry blocks. Again, that's displaying entry data, editing entry data, or deleting entries from your forms. So to do that, we're going to jump in and just start adding an entry block. And I'm going to zoom in just so everyone can see really well. And I'll zoom out occasionally to showcase different things. So first things first, let's add the Gravity Forms entries block. And I have a form set up called sample data form. And we're just going to use the entries table to start. So just so we can make sense of what we're actually looking at, we're going to add just one column really quick, the name column. And that way we can actually disambiguate these and tell that they're all different and not just a bunch of random numbers. So with that in place, oh, you know what? Let's also add a delete link. And we'll also, just as a bonus, I didn't mention this before, but you can also duplicate as well. So we're going to go ahead and update, and we're going to take this to the front end. And as you can see here, we have all of our entries from this form, and you can paginate as well, go on to other entries. So we'll just go back to that first page here, and we're going to just duplicate this entry here. So we have Dave Smith. And now the first thing we're going to try is editing it. Let's say that we're going to use my real name, David Smith, and not my real email, and submit that. And it tells you that the edit was successful. And we can go back to all the rest of our entries. And you'll see that those changes are reflected immediately. We can click on the view link, and that'll take us to the view, the single view. And in the single view, it will just have all of the entry data. In this example, it's pretty basic. I don't have a lot of data attached to this entry, but it will just display everything here using the all fields template by default. But this is fully customizable, which we'll also cover in a little bit. Going back to the entries, the last thing we're going to do here is we're just going to delete this because David Smith is a boring name and Dave Smith is way more fun. And after we delete it, it just tells us that it's deleted. And that's it. That's the basic crud of entry blocks minus create, which we're going to come back to in a future version. All right. One other thing I want to talk about, I did mention that the pagination is supported, but I just want to point out that you can also include page number links with your pagination, or only page number links if you prefer. We'll just leave them both activated for the rest of this little demo. So now we're going to move on to filtering your entries. So you can see that you can easily display your entry data, but you obviously may not want to display all of your entry data to all users. So there's a lot of cool things you can do here. But the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to the Gravity Forms entry, and we want to start by filtering which entries are available to the block as a whole on an administrative level, meaning that the user viewing this would have no control over filtering these entries. They could only ever show the entries that you have selected. And to do that, again, we're going to go to the Gravity Forms entries top level block here, and we're going to go over to the entry query, and we're going to add a filter here. So we're going to add this filter group. We're going to go to created by, because I want to limit only showing entries to the user that I'm logged in as. And that would be for any user that's logged in. And so that's in place. And you can see that it oh, maybe it didn't. Created by user, current user. Let's update that really quick. I would have expected that to update automatically. Oh, it did. It just confused me because it was still showing the pagination in the editor. But if we go and look at this on the front end, you'll see that the pagination is gone. Yeah, because there's not enough entries that are attached to this user to require pagination. So that would limit again from the top level sense where there is no other control of the user to filter entries. But there's also the ability to filter these entries by the user's own needs. And to do that, what we would do is we'd go to the entries table here, and we're going to add before, and we're going to, I usually do the keyboard centric ones, but you can also add that plus button, and we're going to select the filters block. And this is an entries block that is attached to this entries index view. And when you select this, you're going to see it has some block settings you can configure. So for example, we could limit by the name, or we could filter by the name, or even specific inputs in the name, like the first name and the last name only, or even just like the email field. And you can change the orientation as well. So if you want to stack those, this works really well if you're going to split this into its own column and have the entries listed beside it. Or again, you can just have it all horizontal. In this case, though, we're just going to focus on searching for all across all entries. And we're going to go here, and I'm just going to type in a quick search. And you can see that it's filtered down from that list. Now, again, this is the important thing to note. This search can only search across entries that have been enabled via the entry query. And that's the key difference here. This does give the user the ability to search entries, but again, it's only the entries that you have given them permission to search through. All right. That is it for filtering. So now Gravity, our entry blocks, has these super powerful layouts. The two kind of key layouts are going to be the entries table, the entries loop, and there's two other bonus ones that we're not going to cover right now just for time. But you can also show a single entry view. That works really well for like a user profile where you just want the user to go to a page and always have their profile loaded up. And then the single entry edit view, which also can work really well in tandem with that, where they can go to another page to edit their actual profile. So for now, since we already have the entries table layout selected here, let's go ahead and select it here. And we're just going to go over a few little things that you can do with this. The big one here is just going to be managing these columns. And these columns are pretty powerful. You can see I actually already have the entry ID set up to be sortable. And it links to the entry as well. But we could also customize the name of that if we wanted to be more specific and say that is an entry ID. For the name, we could say something like full name. We could link that to the entry and also allow sorting. Since the name field is a multi-input field, it has you can select which input you want to sort by. So in this case, we're going to go with the first name. And then just for simplicity, let's ditch the view link, since both of these now link to the entry. We don't need that, and we don't want them to delete, let's just say. But we also want to expose the email in this view. So we'll add the email, and we can move it up. And this looks pretty good, but everything's a link now, which is kind of weird. But also, we may not want this to be linked. And in that case, this is where the custom column can come in handy. So the custom column, which will move right here, go in and we'll call this the email. And I just happen to already know that the field ID for the email field is 3. So I'm going to just type in the merge tag for that. Now, this is definitely one of the shortcomings that we're still ironing out. And that is that in some cases, you need to know the merge tag or get the merge tag before you can insert it. But that is something that we're going to improve moving forward. And there are a couple ways I'm going to show you how you can get these things pretty easily directly within the context of entry blocks. So for now, though, I'm just going to close that. I'm going to delete our original email field and just use our custom email column here, which now has the unlinked email so that you're not sending out mail to links every time the person clicks an email here. And that is pretty much all there is to the configuration. So let's go ahead and update this. And let's go and view this on the front end. And now you can see that if we select entry ID, it will sort by ascending. And if we click it again, it'll sort by descending. If we click it a third time, it will just remove the sort altogether. For the full name, same deal. It'll sort by that first name input that we selected. And actually, just to show you, if we go to that full name now and we're to say, let's do it by last and update this. And then I think we can just refresh this page, actually. Maybe not. Let's try it again. So there you go. So you can see it is sorting by last name now, A, D, E, F. And again, if you click it again, it will reverse the sort. And if you click it a third time, it removes the sort. And that's pretty much all there is to the entries block. Let me see my notes here if there's anything else I really wanted to cover. No, that's it. The entries table layout. Entries table layout is just, it's so easy. I think that's like the high quality thing about it is that you can just get, I mean, we just did this demo. We're only 13 minutes in, and I was able to show you so much that you can do and just implement very quickly, just a few clicks in the block editor. Okay, so now we're going to go to the star of this show, the entries loop. The entries loop is, it's awesome. It's really exciting. So I'm just going to delete all this hard work that we did. And I'm going to start with a fresh block. And I actually have another form already set up, a team directory here. And with this team directory form, I'm going to go ahead and select the entries loop for the format. And as we scroll through this, you're going to see it just has the all fields merge tag being output for all of these with the view and edit link. This is something that we really want to improve in the future, just like that initial first impression of this. But again, our goal was just to make that data available to you, to expose you to it as quickly as possible so that when you know kind of what is available when you start editing this. So to start editing it, we're just going to click on the block. And this is the first entry. You can see the all fields merge tag that's powering everything that you're seeing on these other blocks below. And actually, before we go any further, just to kind of help make this a little bit more legible, we're going to go up to the entries loop, and we're going to enable the grid view. So clicking the grid view now takes it. You can see the all fields merge tag is displaying for all of these, but now they're just in columns or a grid. We're going to leave this at 3 for now. And things are going to get a little wild before they get prettier, but bear with me. So first things first, I just had this kind of idea in my head of what I want this to look like. We're going to do an image up top, the name of the team member, their job title, and then a button to go and view and meet them, we'll say, to get their full bio. So in this case, we're going to do curly brace, and that will bring up the entry blocks merge tag menu. So from here, I can go down and type, select the first name, and then I'm going to do curly brace again, and we'll go down to the last name. And as you can see, as we are doing this, this other data is filling in on all of these other entries here, which is super awesome because it shows you exactly what it's going to look like as you're editing it. In this case, we don't want them to be able to edit. This is going to be, again, like a public page where people can come and view your teammates. And so we do want to also get the job title in there. So again, curly brace, I'm going to start just typing in job title, and I'm able to pre-select that. And we're going to go ahead and do a little bit more editing here. Actually, you know what? Let's get all the blocks in place first. That actually makes sense. So I know I want to do this image up top. So I'm going to do curly brace. And this is where I'm going to cheat a little bit. This is like a little technique that I've been using with entry blocks as a way. If I know I want to get a merge tag that I won't be able to select, that's actually going to be kind of confusing. Let me just show you what I mean. So I know I want this headshot URL, but I know that I won't be able to select it inside the image block directly. Now I've added that image block, and I'm going to go to insert URL, and I'm going to paste that headshot in there, that merge tag. And then I'll hit enter. And as you'll see, all of these other ones are updated. And this just shows you kind of like the placeholder graphic for it. Worth noting, at any point, you can always just click off of the block, and it will just refresh. Even the one that you were editing will show up, and everything else will come into full color as well. Let's go back onto that block. and we want to make just a few tweaks now. First of all, I like the look of this, but I want to go over to the styles tab on the image block, and we're taking advantage of just, again, core features of WordPress blocks here, and we're going to make it rounded. Just a nice little touch there. I've never actually explored the duotone. Maybe we'll do that another time just in case it backfires. But you can also add the border and the shadow stuff. I think it looks really good as is, so I'm not going to mess with that. But I just wanted to highlight that you can just interact with these blocks as you would with any other WordPress block, because they are any other WordPress block. And we're just integrating Gravity Forms data into existing WordPress blocks. So now we're going to go to this. I want to just pull this up nice and tight with the element above. So we're going to go to dimensions here. We're going to go to margin. And I've already explored this a little bit. I find it just really easy to do it like this. And then if I go to this one, I can do the same thing. Go to dimensions, margin, and we'll set that to 0 as well. So there you go. So now that pulls in nice and tight. I really like that look. And we're going to do one more tweak here. We're going to change the font color of this. It's going to sass me about it not having enough contrast, but I just didn't have another color available. Okay, so that is most of this. Oh, we want to tweak this little view entry link here. So right now it just says view, and we don't maybe want to write a more elaborate title. In this case, I actually want to go a step further. I want to make it a button. I want to make these really engaging, strong CTAs here. So again, I already messed up my own little trick. So I know I'm going to need the URL. So I'm going to get the URL first. And let's actually do that with view and get the view entry URL. So I'm going to copy that. Now I'm going to add the buttons. And then I'm going to say meet. And here's another cool thing. We're just going to add the first name here. Just a great way to integrate that Gravity Forms data to personalize it to this experience. And now I'm going to link this, and I already have the view URL merge tag in my clipboard, so I can just paste that right in. And now when we go to the front end and view this, it'll just link directly to that view entry. Okay. What else do we want to do? I think that might be it for this first pass. So let's go ahead and see how this looks on the front end. So we're going to go to the front end. And you get the idea. I will say, I think that it could use some more more margin now that I'm looking at it. But let's add that. I don't know if it would let us add the margin to the top and the bottom, or only to the bottom. Here we go. Margin bottom, we'll do 16. Oh, it's in rems. Let's adjust that. We'll do 1 rem. There we go. And then on the name, let's go back to that and tweak this a little bit. And say, hey, we want to tweak the margin, only the margin bottom on that to 1 rem. Oh, no, excuse me, margin top on this one. So let's go back. Let's go to top. And then do that to 1 rem. But I think I messed up the other part. So let me just go fix that really quick, where I'm going to go back to the bottom and set that back to 0. There we go. All better. And if we view this on the front end again, oh, the other thing that looks a little weird is that we're zoomed in. So let me drop the zoom back down. Okay, so now that we're zoomed out, I actually like it a little less. And the reason is that I actually just want these to have a little bit more room. So this is some cool stuff that we can do. This kind of just ventures out of entry blocks territory and just into the block editor itself. So first thing we can do here is we can go up to the Gravity Forms entries, and we can affect the width of it. And so we're going to go with the wide width here. And now, again, if we go to the front end and view this, it's going to look a lot more fresh, but there's like not enough space between these. So let's definitely go back here to the entries loop, and under the styles, we can affect the block spacing. So let's bump this up to, I'd say, at least 3. That looks pretty good. And there we go. We're getting somewhere now. That's looking pretty strong. Although it does feel like it could use like a little intro up here at the top. And I happen to have a little snippet already planned, but it's a little close. So I'm going to actually add a spacer as well. And we'll drop that to about, let's say 40. All right. So there we go. Going back here. Now we can kind of get, that's our whole directory right there. Pretty strong. I like it. Let's go ahead and meet Roger. So we get to Roger and we just lose all of that glory that we just worked on, right? We're just back to the all fields template again. But this is where I told you earlier, we're going to go into the view edit, the view entry block, and we're going to edit this to customize it and show kind of everything that we want to see here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and call out one thing. I don't really like that this is showing up even when we're in the view entry context of the Gravity Forms entries. I actually only want this to show up on the entry index page. And so that's easy to do because we can just grab it and just drag it right there. And now it'll only show up, but now it's full width, which I don't like. Well, that's easy enough to solve. We can actually have those, since we already have those both highlighted, we can just group them. And actually, let me zoom back in again so you can make sure to see everything I'm doing there. So now this is going to be kind of constrained to the default width. The images will expand out and let them have a lot more breathing room and really just calls attention to them as well. So now let's jump back to the view entry and we're going to start editing this a little bit. So on this one, we kind of know some of the same things that we want. We know we're going to want to do the image. So let's go get that headshot URL again. And I actually have a really good idea. Let's use a pattern. So I'm going to actually use the plus button in this case because it makes it a lot easier to find patterns. We're going to go to patterns here. And I think I saw a pretty cool pattern that we could use in the featured section here. Let's try this one out for size. Now with this one in place, I have some ideas here. I'm like, okay, let's add our image. So first of all, we can see that it already has an image selected. We want to remove that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of that original URL and we're going to put in our merge tag for the headshot and we're going to save and it will load that up. And then over here, we're going to let's add a header like we did on the front end, or excuse me, on the loop view or that's the loop view. And we'll do the job title, kind of replicating some of that work we already did. But here we're going to include the bio. And then we'll also include a button here to contact them. So let's get the email first. And then we're going to add our buttons. And we'll say contact. And again, I just really I love being able just to tap into that merge tag data inside of these other blocks like this. It's just really cool to me. We're going to go up here so we can link this. And we've already copied that email merge tag. And now that will, we actually want to make that a mail too. I forgot about that. So this is where we actually want the mail to. Enter that. Perfect. And then down here, let's do a couple more tweaks. Let's say ready to meet the rest of the team. And we'll put a button here that will say basically back to team directory. And we will link this. I should have already gotten the link here. Let's say it is the go back URL. We'll copy that. We'll go back to this block. We're going to select the text. We're going to go up to the link and we're just going to enter that in and enter, and we're good to go. The last thing I do want to do here is that I don't love that this is flush over here. I kind of want to replicate that same effect that we have where the title was centered and then the content itself expands out of that content width. And again, we're going to do the same trick that we did on the first page. We're just going to select both of these elements here and we are going to group them. And by default, a group will always fit the content width. And you can actually control that with, it's not selected. You can control that here with the layout. If you want it to go full width, you just uncheck that. If you want it to lock in, you just click it again. I realize that you couldn't see it because I'm zoomed in right now. So let me try that one more time. So you see right now, it is constrained to the content width. And if we uncheck that, it goes full width. So we want the constraint in this case. That's the whole reason we put it into a group. So we'll leave it as is. Okay. So one downside about the view entry layout right now is it doesn't give you that real data preview like the entries loop does, but it is something that we want to bring to essentially all of the entry blocks that we have. It's just so powerful to see the actual data live in the editor. Let's go ahead and view this. And we're seeing everything. We like it. We're going to go to Meet Roger here. And it's looking pretty good. One thing I don't like when I'm looking at this is it has two primary CTAs. So let's go ahead and take this one and we'll go over to the styles here. And we're going to change this to the outline, give it a secondary kind of look. Let's update that and view that, just refresh this page. And there we go. Perfect. So now it's very clear. Like the primary call to action on this page is to contact Roger. His face may be a little big. I just really wanted to show you this pattern. I don't think I necessarily would go this large typically. But yeah, that's the general idea. And then we can click here. Again, it will do a mail to link. And if we click here, it'll take us back to the team and we can meet other people on the team. A couple other things that I wanted to show you really quick. Where to start? So first, I think I want to show you on, if we go back to the entries loop, which is inside of the entries index, I wanted to show you this cool little idea here. Like, let's say we wanted to have like a brief little bio in here. And then by default, it's actually, there's some of these are pretty long. We don't necessarily want to show all of that. I already have a little custom class set up, GPEB, and it's bio. And this is just really cool, just showing you how you can kind of integrate your own customizations into this in a really like easily usable way. And when I update this, you'll actually see already, actually, I don't even need to update it because I can just show you right in the editor. You'll see that it automatically clips it to 3 lines, which is super nice. And just kind of also just gives you like a little bit about them on that page where, you know, but still encouraging you to go through and read the full bio. The other thing I kind of wanted to show you, and I don't know if we have time. Tell you what, we'll come back to that if we have time after the Q&A session. There is one big thing I want to show you after Cole asked me this question.
We just got a quick question from Liz Sanders here. They're asking if Entry Blocks works with Elementor, or is it just or only WordPress blocks?
So it can be displayed inside of Elementor. You would do all of your management for your entry blocks here in the block editor. And then what you can do is there is a shortcode plugin called the Entry Blocks Redux that provides a shortcode that you can then pull any pattern that you've created. And actually that's perfect segue to the other thing I wanted to show you. So yeah, hang on, Liz. I'm going to answer your question and show you a quick example, not in Elementor directly, but it will kind of like show you the path towards getting it in Elementor. So there's this idea of patterns in the block editor, and it's super powerful. So let's just say that you've spent all this time making this beautiful layout, but maybe you have multiple teams. You know, maybe you have, well, I'm not even going to elaborate on that. Just think of any situation where you have something that you want to make templatable and you spend a lot of work in the template right, but you need to apply that template to multiple scenarios. Maybe, again, filtering by different entries or different things like that, or maybe even pulling from different forms. So this is a really cool way to do that. So you can go up to here and you can go create pattern, and we're going to call this our team directory. And we're going to call this unsynced just for clarity, because we are not going to sync this. And this will allow you to make changes to this block, like changing which entries are viewed and other little details like that. The downside of it not being synced is, of course, that if you do need to make global updates, you would have to go in and make them to all of the places that you've implemented it. So I see this as more of like a starting point, like serving as like a, there's a word for it, like a boilerplate. There you go. So we've done that. So now we're going to go to a new page. I'm going to add another team directory. We'll call this team directory. I took 2 years of French in high school, and I think I only learned how to count to 10. That's all that stuck with me. So, oops. And see, I already distracted myself. Let us go to the patterns here. We're going to go, oh, actually, I can select it here. We can just type in team directory unsynced. We're going to paste this in. And so you can see it just copied everything that we had in that entries block and just output it right here. And now we can go to our entry query, our settings here. And I have another form here for team directory de. And this one only has one person on this team. So maybe not the best, layout for them, but just imagine if this was like a whole other team. Maybe you have like a sales team and the support team, the product team. So you could have different pages for this, all using the same basic block entry blocks, and then just configure the settings on each block to show the desired theme, or again, different forms, whatever you need. And you can change the filters as well to filter. If you wanted to use the same form, you could just change the filters to say, hey, I only want to show the people that are in the sales category or in the support category. So that's just like a rough concept. And this is the same concept that you would actually use with Elementor. It's just that instead of inserting it in the way that I just showed you, where you select it in the block editor, there's a short code that it gives you where you can select that short code and you can paste that short code wherever you want your block to be output. Hope that answers your question, Liz. Okay. Speaking of questions, that is it for the demo right now. Does anyone have any questions about entry blocks of things that I've just covered? Awesome. Then let's move on to the first question. Okay, Matt asks, what kind of beard? Oh, it's not kind of what I believe this question was, what kind of beard oil does Dave use? Instead of what kind of beard does Dave use? I use a natural beard. I grew myself. But as for beard oil, I suspect this question was asked in jest, but I will answer it seriously and say that I have never found beard oil to be effective for me. I think my beard hair is just too wiry. So I gave up on it a long time ago. All right, jumping over to Cooper. Cooper asks, any plans to support entry notes for users to discuss entries? That's a super cool idea. We don't have any firm plans, but we're definitely interested. Especially if more people are saying that they want to do this. It honestly probably wouldn't be that hard. I will say, just kind of speaking generally, we have lots of plans to add support for capturing all sorts of other aspects of Gravity forms in the block editor. And so entry notes makes a lot of sense to have a way to display those and control how they're displayed too. So you can get the different, like the commenter, the comment itself, when, the date that it was posted, and that way you can just position it however you want, create your own unique view for that. I mean, at the end of the day, eventually you'll be able to just replace the entirety of the Gravity Forms backend with entry blocks on the front end. All right, moving on. Sally says, I want all the details on using Google Sheets with entry blocks, specifically whether populate anything is required. So we talked about this a little bit before, and not in this, sorry, the team and I talked about this internally. And my understanding of the question is you're wondering if you can populate Google Sheets data directly, or I guess display Google Sheets data directly via entry blocks. And unfortunately, that is not possible. Entry blocks is very much tied to Gravity Forms entries. So because of that limitation, you would have to figure out some way to import your Google Sheets entries into Gravity Forms first, and then you could display them. Ways to do that. I know GravityKit has a really great importer, entry importer, and I believe it would support, if not supporting Google Sheets directly, you could export them to a CSV and then import them through Gravity Import to any form. And then once they're there, you could display them with entry blocks. And populate anything is only ever required with Google Sheets if you are looking to pull data dynamically into a form, such as providing a list of classes in a dropdown that you have stored in a spreadsheet for your. A lot of times people do that just to make it easier for less technical people to manage that data, rather than having to log into WordPress, log into a Gravity form, or wherever they're going to manage that data. Spreadsheets have been around for so long. I think a lot of people are more comfortable with them than with learning an entire new UX for data administration. I hope that answers your question, Sally. Moving on to Spafford. That is a cool name. Spafford is looking for a simple way to display a comment text field after it has been reviewed and approved. This is an interesting one. I think, let's just dive into this one. I think we have the time. So let me go back to this view. We're going to go, let's see here. Let's set up a quick form. Oh, let me zoom back in. I always forget that, y'all. I apologize. So let's, first of all, we're going to create a new form. And we are going to add a drop down here. We're going to make this drop down administrative so that it doesn't show up to users and it can't be edited by users, which is important. And we're going to go back to the general tab. We're going to go to edit choices and we're going to say approved, unapproved, or rejected. And we're going to say unapproved is the default status, just meaning that it hasn't been assessed yet. There may be a better word for that. And then we will give this a quick name of maybe just approval status. All right. And then we'll add, I think you said a text field. And this will just be a comment. Save. And let's go to live preview. And I'm just going to enter a couple comments in here. So Dave doesn't use beard oil. Weird. Let's add another one in here. And we'll say Gravity Wiz workshops are magical. And we'll go back. Well, now we're going to go to our entries. Now, but before we change anything, first of all, notice that both of these are unapproved. And we're going to go now, we're going to create a new page. And we're going to say, we'll just call this comments. And we'll go here and we're going to go Gravity Forms entries. And what was the name of that form? 871. Form 871. Oopsie poopsies. Form 871. Select that. And now we are going to do, dang, what should we do? Let's do the entries loop. Let's do the entries loop. We have the entries loop here now. And you can see these are showing up, but we actually don't want them to show up unless they're approved, right? So here we would go, let's enable the list view over here because it's just so important. And we're going to go down to the entries loop. Oh, excuse me, up to the Gravity Forms entries here. We're going to go to the entry query and we're going to add a filter. And we're going to say where the approval status is. We don't have anything with that value yet, so it doesn't know about it. So we're just going to have to manually type in approved here. And so now you'll see that there are no comments at all because there's nothing that matches that. And we'll publish this. I'm a little surprised. I would expect to see the no. Oh, weird. Okay, so it's here. Maybe we're just like zoomed in too far, something in the admin. So no entries found. But now if we go here and we go into the admin, and you could always create a separate entry block view to handle this, this approval step itself. We're going to go edit and we're going to say approved. Awesome. And we'll go here and we refresh and boom, it shows up right there. And again, you can completely style this as you've seen, however you want. So you're not locked into this all fields merge tag aesthetic. You can make this look really fancy. You can even pull in data, other data about the entry. Let me actually show you a little bit of that really quick. So for example, just showing you everything that's available here. So you have the IP address, the date that it was posted, the page it was embedded from, the embed URL, the entry ID, entry URL. Let's keep going here. I think one thing that really would be nice here is the ability, there is the created by, but the created by is oh, actually it doesn't look like it has the created by there. But I think you can actually do it like this. But the problem with this is that it's still going to give you just like a number, like the actual ID. So we need to get a nice block in there to allow you to extract like more details about the user that created it. Okay, I think that answers the question though pretty satisfactorily. Clay,
yeah, I was just going to mention on this one, just reading through the question, I think they want to conditionally show a field. This is something we've talked about quite a bit, being able to have conditional logic on particular blocks. It's not supported at the moment, but it is something we want to support. Another thing that you can do, it's sort of experimental, is you can nest entries blocks. You need to be careful with the multi-entry views. Like, you don't want a block go into the single view, then try to click on edit in another one. But if you just want to display a list of blocks inside of another one, that is possible. So you could potentially do that for comments on an entry, or say displaying nested forms, if those are comments, if you will. But conditional functionality on blocks is definitely planned, but it's a ways off, I'd say.
Yep, dig it. All right, I think we're going to end on this last little note here. With entry blocks, I think one of the things that we're really excited about is this idea that as WordPress grows, we also benefit from all of that growth. And the block editor itself, I mean, it's blowing up. It's getting so good. I don't know if you guys are following along, but I actually have a link to share with you that I will show you. So Rich Tabor just shared this thread, WordPress 6.5. We'll post it somewhere for you to access. And it just kind of goes through all of these new features that are coming to, that came to the block editor in 6.5. And it's, again, most of these entry blocks directly benefits from, the font library that gives you the ability to select custom fonts, and so you can have more control over the entry data that you're displaying. You can choose the font to display it in. Block bindings, I think Clay could probably speak to that better than I could.
Yeah, sure. I thought about sharing my screen on this, but there's really not a whole lot to show at this point. The idea is that if you're familiar with Cadence, they've had this concept of dynamic data in a lot of their blocks for, advanced text, advanced image, and so on. You're able to click on the little pancake stack icon and select meta or whatever you want to display, and it shows a nice little blue underline showing that it's dynamic. And we've always thought that's so cool and it'd be perfect for entry blocks. But we just felt like there'd eventually be something, and lo and behold, that's what block bindings is.
Yeah.
And
correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but this would be a perfect solution for how I had to get the merge tags out for like the images and the buttons, the button links. Like there'd be a way to actually pull that in directly, right?
Exactly. And that's the problem right now, is this is all pretty lower level stuff, and you have to literally go into the code view and wire it up. So they have the underlying API for block bindings, and I've tested it. It's super cool, but there's no actual UI in the block editor yet. That's another one where they say it's coming, so I'm a bit hesitant to build our own UI around it until they do.
While you're on, do you want to talk about the interactivity API?
Yeah, I personally haven't explored this one as much as block bindings. I know a lot of people are excited about interactivity API. But there's a lot of neat potential for entry blocks here as well, in particular with things like filtering and pagination, using as the internet veterans call Ajax, which is probably the outdated term these days. But just being able to click on the next, you're typing a filter and not having a page refresh. It'll be a smoother flow, opens up tons of cool things with like maps blocks, more robust table blocks, and so on. So we're excited about that.
Heck yeah. Yeah, some just other kind of highlights out of this list here. Just the easier link control. You've already seen this in action because I just demoed it. But this is, again, an improvement that we got for free that benefited entry blocks. List view enhancements. I showed some of these already, where you can drag and drop things, drop them into the different groups. Again, we got it for free because we built on top of the block editor. Extended background control doesn't really apply to us that right now. Renaming blocks. This is super helpful because sometimes paragraph doesn't explain what's in that paragraph or why it's important, and sometimes it's just useful to have an actual explanation for in the name of the block. Yeah, you can also do some really cool things here, like the shadow and preset effects. This is a little bit more theme dependent, but if you're using a theme that's like leaning into the block editor, you can apply all the benefits that you're getting from your theme to entry blocks as well. And that's, again, just part of the glory of symmetry, you know? And then lastly, obviously benefiting hugely from accessibility and performance as well. So I think that, again, the note that I really am trying to like hammer in there is just, we're just feeling super confident about the block editor and the decision that we made to kind of build on top of it. And it's really starting to pay off. And we're really excited. We hope you are too. That concludes our workshop. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. If you have any follow-up questions afterwards, we will be sending an email for just general feedback. Feel free to tack a question on there, and we'll answer it in the weekly or just reply to you directly. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming. It's been awesome. And if you want more of these, please leave feedback to make sure that we know that they're important to you. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.